Good morning, students. In English literature, today we shall study lesson 10. Topic is the Great Stone Face Second. We have already studied the first part of the chapter. I would like to give you a summary of that chapter as well. So, the story revolves around the main character, that is Ernest, who lives in a valley, and there was a structure also that is called the stone face. The stone face was a structure that is formed by nature on the hills, and it looks like the face of a human. Ernest also heard the story that is related to the stone face. His mother told him that there is a prophecy that one day a man will appear in the valley who resembles the stone face and who will be the kindest and noblest person of that time. Everyone was waiting the prophecy to be true, and Ernest was also waiting for the same. And meanwhile, he heard that a person who belonged to the valley only is coming back, and he resembles the stone face. But when Ernest saw that person, his name was Mr. Gathergold. He was a merchant, he was very rich, but Ernest could not find any kind of likeness between Mr. Gathergold and the stone face. Second time, the people started creating a rumor that a soldier, a commander who is called the General Blood and Thunder, resembles like the stone face. But when Ernest saw that commander, Ernest could not find any kind of resemblance between the general and the stone face. So still, Ernest's heart was saying that the noblest man, that the stone face will appear and one day he would come to the valley. Now let's read forward. That is the Great Stone Face Second. Before you read, many years passed. Ernest was now a man of middle age. Many years have been passed and Ernest became a man of middle age. Now he was not a child. To his neighbors, who never suspected that he was anything more than an ordinary and familiar face, he was only a humble and hardworking, though thoughtful person. So for the neighbors, for Ernest neighbors, Ernest was never, more than an ordinary person. He was a familiar face in the valley, and he was a very humble and hardworking person and thoughtful also. But what about the old prophecy? Was it ever fulfilled? Let us read and find out. Now what happened to the prophecy that the noblest person of that time will appear in the valley who resembles the stone face? Was it ever fulfilled? Now we will read about it. The years hurried on and brought white hairs upon the head of Ernest and made wrinkles across his forehead and furrows in his cheeks. So the time passed, and now Ernest became a man of middle age. His hair became, white, and the wrinkles were there on his face and cheeks. Furrows, you can see, furrows means deep lines on the skin. He was an old man, but not in vain had he grown old. More numerous than the white hairs on his head were the wise thoughts in his mind. So if we compare between the white hair on his head and the wise thoughts that came in his mind during the years, so the wise thoughts were more than the white hair. And Ernest has ceased to be obscure, and still Ernest was not well known. Unsought for, undesired had come the fame which so many seek. So the fame which people want, that was undesired for Ernest. He had become famous beyond the limits of the valley. Now people out of the valley know Ernest. College professors and even the active men of cities came from far to see and converse with Ernest, and he received them with gentle sincerity and spoke freely with them of whatever came uppermost or lay deepest in his art or their own. So whenever they came to meet Ernest, he talked them politely, he spoke very politely and speak them very, gently. While they talked together, his face would brighten unawares and shine upon them as with a mild evening light. So whenever Ernest talked with those people, there was a brightness on his face about which he was unknown, and there was a shine on his face, and it was like, a mild evening light. While Ernest had been growing old, God had granted a new poet to the earth. He too was a native of the valley, but had spent the greater part of his life in distant cities. pouring out his sweet music everywhere. So, when Ernest was growing old at that time, there was a poet who belonged to the valley. He was very famous everywhere. Neither was the great stone face forgotten, for the poet had celebrated it in a poem, and even the poet belonged to the valley. He also celebrated about the great stone face in his poem. The songs of this poet found their way to Ernest, and somehow the songs of this poet reached to Ernest. He read them after his customary toil. Customary toil means usual work, ordinary work. Seated on the bench before his cottage door, as he read, he lifted his eyes to the mountain. So, when Ernest finished his ordinary work, he started reading the song by sitting at the cottage door. As he read, he lifted his eyes to the mountain. "O great stone face," he said, "is not this man worthy to be your likeness?" Still, he was thinking that the poet is worthy, that the poet is like the great stone face. The face seemed to smile but did not answer. So it was seemed that the face was smiling, that the great stone face was smiling, but didn't give any answer to Ernest. Now it happened that the poet, though he lived so far away, had not only heard of Ernest but had thought much about his character and wished to meet this man whose wisdom walked hand in hand with the noble simplicity of his life. So, although the poet used to live far from the valley, but he also heard about Ernest, and he wanted to meet a person whose wisdom is so popular, out of the valley also, a person who is so simple and so noble. One summer day, therefore, he arrived at Ernest's door, where he found the good old man holding a book in his hand, which he read, and then, with a finger between the leaves, looked lovingly at the great stone face. So one summer day, what happened? The poet came to Ernest's door, and he saw that an old man was holding a book in his hand, and he was reading the book, and at the same time he was looking at the great stone face lovingly. "Good evening," said the poet. "Can you give a traveler a night's shelter?" So the poet wished Ernest good evening and said that, "Please give me shelter for a night." "Gladly," answered Ernest, and then he added, smiling, "I think I never saw the great stone face looked so hospitably at a stranger." Ernest gladly said yes, and then he added that he never saw the great stone face, talking with so gentleness, with so kindness to a stranger. The poet sat down beside him, and he and Ernest talked together. So Ernest and the poet started talking together. Never before had the poet talked with a man like Ernest, so wise and gentle and kind. Ernest, on the other hand, was moved by the living images flung out of the poet's mind. So the poet was very much impressed with Ernest, because he never met a person like Ernest who was so wise, so gentle and kind. And on the other hand, Ernest was also impressed with the poet, because the living images which the poet had shown to Ernest was completely surprising for Ernest. As Ernest listened to the poet, he imagined that the great stone face was bending forward to listen to. He gazed into the poet's eyes. So when Ernest and the poet was talking together, Ernest imagined that the great stone face also wanted to listen their conversation, and Ernest started gazing into the poet's eyes. "Who are you, my gifted guest?" he asked. Ernest asked the poet that, "Who are you?" The poet laid his finger on the book that Ernest had been reading. So the poet had pointed his finger on the book which Ernest was reading. "You have read these poems," said he. "You know me then, for I wrote them." So the poet said that the poems which you are reading, the book which you are reading, that is written by me. Again and again Ernest examined the poet's features. He turned towards the great stone face, then back. He shook his head and sighed. "Why are you sad?" inquired the poet. So when Ernest got to know that he was the poet about whom the rumor was there that the poet resembles the great stone face, so Ernest started examining the poet's features, and he was comparing the features of the great stone face with the poet. And then he sighed, and he was looking at the poet only. "Why are you sad?" inquired the poet. The poet asked Ernest that why was he sad. Because, replied Ernest, all through life I have awaited the fulfillment of a prophecy, and when I read these poems, I hoped that it might be fulfilled in you. So, Ernest replied that all of his life he was waiting for the prophecy to become the truth, and when he read the poems that is written by the poet, he was hoping that his hope will be fulfilled at that time, and the poet will be the man about whom he was waiting. You hoped, answered the poet, faintly smiling, to find in me the likeness of the great stone face. I am not worthy to be its likeness. And the poet said that you hoped, you was waiting for the prophecy to become the truth, but I am not worthy. I am not the person who resembles the stone face. And why not? Asked Ernest. He pointed to the book. Are not those thoughts worthy? Ernest asked the poet that why not? Why he is not worthy to be the great stone face? You can hear in them the distant voice of a heavenly song, but my life, dear Ernest, has not corresponded with my thoughts. So the poet is saying that the heavenly voice could be heard in his songs, but his thoughts and his life is not agree with each other. I have had grand dreams, but they have been only dreams. The poet said further that he had some dreams, some grand dreams, but they are only dreams. Sometimes I lack faith in my own thoughts. Why then, pure seeker of the good and true, should you hope to find me in the face of the mountain? So he is saying that sometimes I feel that there is a lack of faith in my own thoughts. Why are you searching the stone face in me? The poet said that. Why the Ernest was searching stone face in the face of the poet? The poet spoke sadly, and his eyes were wet with tears. So too were those of Ernest. So they both were crying, the poet and Ernest, at the hour of sunset. As had long been his custom, Ernest was to speak to a group of neighbors in the open air. Together he and the poet went to the meeting place arm in arm. From there could be seen the great stone face. So it was a habit of Ernest that he used to speak to a group of neighbors, and at the time of sunset also he and the poet, they both went to attend the meeting from where the stone face could be seen properly. Ernest threw a look of familiar kindness around upon his audience. He began to speak to the people what was in his heart and mind. So as usual, Ernest threw a familiar and kindness look to his audience, and he started talking which was in his heart and his mind. His words had power because they agreed with his thoughts, and his thoughts had reality and depth because they harmonized with the life which he had always lived. So his words were having power because his thoughts and his life, they both were agree with each other, the life which he had lived. It was not mere breath that the preacher uttered, they were the words of life. So when Ernest was speaking, it was not the words of a preacher, it was the experience of life which he was telling to his neighbors. A life of good deeds and selfless love was melted into them, and as usual he was very kind. So his good deeds and his selfless love was there in his words. The poet, as he listened, felt that the life and character of Ernest were a nobler strain of poetry than he had ever written, and at that time the poet thought that that Ernest character was the nobler one which he has ever written in his career. His eyes filled with tears, and he said to himself that never was there so worthy a sage as that mild, sweet, thoughtful face with the glory of white hair diffused about it. Diffused means spread all around. So he was completely very happy with the words of Ernest, and he was thinking that he has never seen that kind of a sage who is very sweet, who is very thoughtful, and he was very impressed with Ernest. At a distance, but clearly to be seen, high up in the golden light of the setting sun, appeared the great stone face, with white mists around it, like the white hairs around the brow of Ernest. So it was the time of sunset, and from there only the great stone face can be seen, and the mist was around the great stone face, and it was looking like the white hairs around the brow of Ernest. At that moment, Ernest's face took on an expression so grand that the poet was moved to throw his arms up and shout, "Behold, behold! Ernest is himself the likeness of the great stone face." And at that time, when the poet saw Ernest, he could not stop himself from saying that Ernest is the man about whom they all were waiting. Ernest himself is the great stone face. Then all the people looked and saw that what the poet said was true, and at that time everyone noticed that what the poet was saying is true. The prophecy was fulfilled, the prediction was fulfilled. But Ernest, having finished what he had to say, took the poet's arm and walked slowly homeward, still hoping that some wiser and better man than himself would by and by appear, bearing a resemblance to the great stone face. And Ernest has completed his talking to the neighbors, and he came back to his home with the poet only, because he thought that some wiser and better man than himself would appear by and by, because he thought that in the world the wiser man, the better man than Ernest would be appeared, and who will resemble the great stone face. And that is the story. I hope everything is clear to all of you. Thank you everyone.